Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville, in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored and so wicked happy that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Good Pods, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Himalaya, Ghana, Stitcher Radio, wherever you find your podcast. And please tell your family and friends all about it. We have two great guests today. Natasha Huemer will be here to celebrate Puppies Garden Adventure. And then Anita Kay Newman celebrates Clark the Colorblind Chameleon. Before we invite our guests into the studio, we want to invite you to connect with us on social media. So many places. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Reading With Your Kids on TikTok, at Jedley Magic on Twitter. We have a great Pinterest page, a number of different Pinterest boards you want to check out. Of course, our main one is Reading With Your Kids on Pinterest. We would also love for you to connect with us on our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Sign up for our free newsletter. Our first newsletter, our first revamped newsletter is coming out in just a few days. It features a fantastic profile of our Dean of All Things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson, written by Rory Grady. Also has some great tips, a great activity you can do with your kids, how to make dinosaur footprint cookies. Awesome stuff. Lets you know what you might have missed on the podcast. Lets you know what's coming up. Also want to give a big shout out to the folks at Good Pods. They recommended our Reading With Your Kids podcast was one of their recommended podcasts this week. So thank you so much to them. Oh, and by the way, if you are on readingwithyourkids.com, be sure to use the contact button at the top of the page to send us a message. Let us know what we're doing great. Let us know what we could be doing better. And of course, let us know who you would like to hear on a future episode of the Reading With Your Kids podcast. Join us right now from Temecula in the great state of California. Our guest today is here to celebrate her brand new picture book. It is beautiful. Please welcome to the show the author of Puppies Garden Adventure, Natasha Huemer. Hey, Natasha, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, and I'm so glad to be here talking with you today.
As we say here in Boston, I'm wicked excited to have you on, Natasha. Natasha just read Puppies Garden Adventure to me. It's a beautiful book, a really fun story. Why don't you, Natasha, just give everybody a quick summary of what the book is all about, please?
So the book Puppies Garden Adventure is about a little puppy going on an adventure with her mommy in the garden, and she sees little insect friends. She goes by a fountain, and she sees so many beautiful things in the garden with flowers and everything, and she goes on an adventure.
Awesome. Now, people listening might, they hear you and you sound like a very intelligent, talented young woman, but they also are probably saying, but she sounds really young to be an author. And you are kind of young to be an author. Tell everybody how old you are, please.
Yeah, I'm 11 years old.
11 years old, and you're already a published author. How did that happen?
Okay, so I've always wanted to write a book. Every day I get on my computer and I type stories, and I've always wanted to pick one of them that I wanted to choose to publish, but I never found one that I really wanted to publish. And then I wrote Puppies Garden Adventure one day, and I thought, this is the one. And I wanted to write a beginner reader book because I have a little sister, and she's 6 years old, and she reads like beginner reader chapter books and early reader books. And I wanted to write a book that kids her age could enjoy and read on their own and tell people that they could read it by themselves.
That's really inspiring, because I think most people who are thinking of kids who are 11, 12, 13 years old, they're you hear those kids saying, I really want to play a video game. I want to watch a TV show. I want to watch a movie. But here you are, you want to be an author. And specifically, you want to be an author to write stories for your sister and kids that age.
Yes, I love everything about writing. You get to make up characters. You get to just have fun and add anything you want to your stories. So I love writing.
Wow. You know, we're always hearing about kids sometimes complaining that they don't have any control over their lives, and their teachers are always telling them what to do, and their parents are telling them what to do, and they can't wait to be independent and get out there on their own and make their own decisions. But you're letting us know that at 11 years old, you're able to experience that power and that independence by creating your own world.
Yes, because no matter what you write about, you can add anything in your story and make it however you want.
That's so cool. Now, when did you learn that lesson?
So, well, at school we always had to write stories for the teachers, and sometimes we would have to write a story to turn it in as an assignment. So I always would have fun writing it, and I would make it a long story and everything. But I've always liked writing stories or drawing pictures and making up stories. I've done that as long as I could write, probably, because I love to write stories.
Now, your mom has been on the program in the past, Marla Huemer, and Marla has written a number of really wonderful books. I believe that they're all certified great reads.
Yes.
And I also understand that you helped create some of those books, or at least the art for some of those books. Am I right in remembering that?
Yes. Yeah. I helped make ideas for the story, some of the illustrations, and I cut out pieces for the book, and sometimes I helped inspire some of the stories, my sister too. So I definitely helped it. I'm one of the illustrators for her book.
Yeah. Now, in this book, you had this Puppies Garden Adventure where you had an illustrator create the pictures in the book. Why don't we give a shout out to your illustrator?
Her name's Dory Durbin, and she wrote her own books, like Little Cat Feels Left Out. She wrote books about Dog and Little Cat. Yeah,
and Dory's been on the show too. I'm curious, since you were part of creating the illustrations for your mom's books, why did you decide to have a professional illustrator create the art for Puppies Garden Adventure?
Because, well, I wanted it to look really, really good, because I like the idea of cardstock, but that's kind of my mom's look of illustration. And dogs are really hard to draw, and I wanted it to be super cute dogs. So I asked Dory Durbin, because I published through my mom's publishing company, Think Ahead Kids Publishing, and she was one of the illustrators, and I always loved her dogs in her book, so I wanted them to look like that.
Wow. You know, I'm listening to you, and you've been on the program here for 6 minutes, and you've already had the presence of mind, the good business mind to give a shout out to your illustrator and talk about your publisher. And how did you get to be so confident at only 11 years of age?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. It comes naturally, and that's really wonderful. Tell me, Natasha, you created this beautiful story about Poppy's Garden Adventure, and it was inspired a little bit by your dog. Is that right?
Yes, it was inspired of my dog, because outside in my backyard we have lots of plants, and she goes and sits out by the plants. So I thought I should write a book about dogs based on my dog and other dogs, because everyone loves dogs. And it's also about the little baby and the mommy going on adventures, because when I was little, me and my mom, we would always go to Turtle Bay Park and go see all the animals. it was like my adventure.
Wow. Now, have you mentioned that you've written a bunch of different stories, but this was the one that you absolutely wanted to have published. This was the one that cried out to you, Natasha, publish me, please.
Yes.
Is there another story or another character that is also kind of on the shelf that is saying, publish me next, Natasha?
So I was writing a chapter book about Puppy and some other dog breeds going on adventure to like rescue a flamingo. And I finished that book, so I think I want to publish it.
Wow. And that's a chapter book.
It's kind of lengthwise. It can have chapters, but it's like an early reader chapter book because it's kind of short, but
Okay.
it's still fun to read.
Wonderful. Who do you like to read, Natasha? What authors and what books do you like to read?
Oh, there's a series called Land of Stories by Chris Colfer, I believe. And they have, I think one of them had like 800 pages, and they have little tiny words on them. I read about 3 of those, but I also read some of the Harry Potter books.
Okay. I remember when my son, he's much older now, but when he was in first grade, he wanted to read the Harry Potter book, and I said, I'll read that. And I didn't know that it was 700 pages long, but we did read it together, and it was a lot of fun. You're 11 years old. You're going into 7th grade right now. I know that your mom read to you when you were younger. Do you and your mom still read together?
Yeah, we read a lot together. And when I was little, every day we would read like 5 picture books. I remember when I was little, all I would do was read with my mom. It was so much fun.
Yeah. Do you think all that time that you spent reading with your mom was part of the reason that you enjoy creating stories so much now?
Yes, because I always saw that the authors, they would make up these such fun characters, and they would be able to go on adventures, and I wanted to do that. So when I got my computer originally for school to do online school, every day I would just start writing stories and making up stories. And even way before then, I would just type stories on my mom's computer.
That's neat. So if I were to give you a scenario, a prompt, and I were to say, okay, your dog Puppy meets my dog Augie, who's blind in one eye and kind of a chubby beagle, could you create an adventure for them to go on together?
Yes.
Yeah? Do you have an idea? Is there an idea that's jumping out at you right now, what Augie and Puppy might do together?
Yeah, because they're both dogs and they're really cute. So maybe they could like go on an adventure in the forest, and then they meet like some mythical animal, and then they can go to a different world.
Ooh, I like it. Well, I'm hoping that when you go to sleep tonight, you get some inspiration and you decide to create that story.
Yeah.
That would be a lot of fun. I'm wondering, Natasha, do you have a website where people can go and find out more about you?
My book's on Think Ahead Kids, so you can look on my mom's website and on the back of my book. And on the back of my book is a little bit about the book, and on the inside it's a little bit about me.
Awesome. And I'm wondering, what did the other kids getting ready to go into 7th grade think when they know that their friend is a published author?
Well, the kids at my old school, I had Zoom called them, and they asked me like all these questions, and I could tell that they were like really impressed, and it made me feel good because they were asking me about how I came up with my ideas and about how I chose to write about an early reader book.
Wonderful. And, you mentioned earlier that one of the reasons that you chose to write an early reader book is because your little sister is reading these type of books. What does your sister think about the book?
Oh, she loves it. She can read it on her own too, and she likes reading about the dogs going on the adventure. She loves it.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I'm excited. I have a feeling that Puppy's Garden Adventure is the first of many books that's going to come from the mind of our guest, Natasha Huemer. Am I right about that?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Well, we've had a wonderful time speaking to the author of Puppy's Garden Adventure, Natasha Huemer. Hey, Natasha, thank you so very much for spending time with me today.
You're welcome.
We hope you enjoyed our chat with Natasha Huemer. We go from Temecula, California to Carver, Massachusetts to meet our guest, Anita Kay Newman. Join us right now from the beautiful town of Carver in Massachusetts, a place that I spent many summers at with my cousin. Beautiful, beautiful town. Our guest today is here to celebrate her debut picture book. Is called Clark the Colorblind Chameleon. Please welcome to the show, Anita Kay Newman. Hey, Anita, how are you?
I am fine.
Now, chameleons are those kind of to me, they're kind of magical. We had a chameleon as one of the many weird pets that we had when I was growing up, and I was always fascinated that it was able to change colors.
Yes, it's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. So tell us about your book, please.
Well, the book is a story about a chameleon who is young, and he's playing with his friends, and one day they suddenly disappear because they can camouflage, change colors, but he can't. And he doesn't understand why. And they kind of laugh, but they're nice. They're nice to him. They try to help him, but nothing works. And he finally goes home to his mom, and she says, you got to be careful because predators, if you don't hide from predators, they can get you. It's dangerous. And she takes him to the wise chameleon, who tests him, something like a school psychologist, I say, being a teacher, and says, you can change every color. You simply do not see them. You see shades of gray. So you're going to have to work extremely hard to match shades of gray to the colors, whatever you're on, to change your color, which would be very difficult. And he practices and still has problems, and he wants to give up, but she keeps saying, you're only doomed if you give up, because you need to keep doing it, or you will be. He keeps saying, I'm doomed. And finally, he begins to get the shade closer and closer and closer, and finally, he can change colors, do something that his friends and other chameleons did so easily that he had to work very, very hard for.
Such a neat story with a great message, that whole idea that you're only doomed or you only fail when you give up.
Right.
Yeah. Was there something in particular that inspired this story?
Well, this is, I taught first grade and kindergarten. So I would see children come in. They don't know that they have a disability yet. They're just little kids. They've been playing, having a good time. And they come into kindergarten and they can't seem to learn letters, or they can't seem to repeat sounds, or whatever they're having problem with. They don't understand it. And we do. We can get them tested, help them, and give them skills to go around the problem. It never disappears. You have to work that much harder, and it will always be there. Because I think a lot of children's stories have something magical happen and it's over. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted to kind of instill the idea of, and I think the meme is never stop trying. You always need to stop. You need to try in life and keep trying if you feel that you need to do something. And it's what could call grit.
Well, yeah, and it is a really important trait to have. And you bring up a point that I don't think that we've talked about here on the podcast. We've talked a lot about kids who are experiencing different learning challenges. We've never kind of acknowledged that typically those challenges don't get, quote unquote, cured. Instead, kids have to find a workaround, a strategy that will help them learn despite this particular challenge.
Yes. And it's hard to explain to parents sometimes that this will always be with him or her. And they need the skills and will always be using them to get around it. As you said, a workaround.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Tell us about, because it must be heartbreaking to sit down with a parent and to present the parent with this idea that, hey, your kid, this kid that you love, that you adore, that you want the best for, that you have all these dreams about, this kid has a learning challenge and we can't cure it. When they hear that, how are you able to kind of turn that around, turn that kind of devastation that they might feel hearing that the child has this and that the child is always going to have to face this challenge, and let the parent know that, hey, it's going to be okay. We can support your kid. Your kid can still have all those dreams come true.
It is very difficult, but we have support systems in the school. I was also a school psychologist, and what the school psychologist does is they test to find out what is the problem. There's an individual test of different skills, so they can say this is a problem here and here, and this is what we're going to be doing to help your child get around the problem. And you have support staff. You have the Title I helps reading, and then you also have your learning disability teachers who have their we call it an IEP. It's their plan that they will know for each individual child. This is what these are the skills I have to help them with. And so there's a kind of it's a team effort, and parents come into that team. And I think I have found parents react in very different ways. Some get very angry because how dare you say that my perfect child has a problem, and you have to kind of get them over that hump. Like it's not unsurmountable. We can work around it, and you can help them, and we can help them.
And I've mentioned on the podcast before, my beautiful wife just retired from teaching, as being a special needs teacher in the Boston schools. For 34 years, and that anger that you expressed is something that she experienced many times, with a student, and it's, when she would come home and share a story of what might have happened during the day, and I would say to her, but the parents know that this third grader can't write their name, but they're angry that you're saying that they have they didn't notice that there was an issue before you mentioned it today. It's sort of like, how can you not see this parent?
Well, you don't want to.
Yeah.
Part of it is they don't want to. And sometimes they're busy in their own lives, and they don't know where, in third grade, you really should be able to, you're reading. So, but they don't know where you should be. Because I had a nephew who had learning disabilities, and my brother and sister-in-law are very bright, but they didn't realize that in sixth grade I saw some of his writing, and I went, is he getting help? He had difficulty writing a sentence, and they got very upset. Turned out he was dyslexic. So, and I said to if people who are very bright don't get it and have very full lives, I'm sure everybody doesn't get it. They don't quite understand it. Educators' children, even the educators, I would have a hard time if my child had great difficulties. It would be difficult.
Yeah. We've had a great time speaking to the author of Clark the Colorblind Chameleon, Anita Kay Newman. Hey, Anita, thanks so much for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed talking.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Evelyn Logan. She'll be here to celebrate her debut picture book, Streets of Ondo. It's a really, really fun conversation. It's a beautiful book. Evelyn just sent me my copy. It is gorgeous. And you're going to love meeting Evelyn. She is wonderful. If you're the author of a debut picture book, or maybe it's your 40th or 50th picture book, or a middle grade novel, or a YA title, we would love to help you celebrate your book to the world. So many different ways we can help you. You can be a guest here on the podcast. You could submit your book to our Certified Great Read panel. And you can take advantage of our monthly promotion program. Where can you learn about all that? Thank you for asking. Go to readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page and scroll on down to learn all about those different opportunities. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to start by thanking our guest. Please be sure to check out Puppies Garden Adventure from our guest, Natasha Huemer. Also, please be sure to check out Clark the Colorblind Chameleon, written by Anita Kay Newman. I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Nicole Bell Castro, Ashley Contreras, Mirabella Q, Rain Penn. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.